black, old school, follow me back, rock the slide, dump the mic and pack the Mac and my smile, right? Give me a pin, never the gin.
Where is there the most pressure for the father? Is it the stepfather, the real father, the absentee father, the boyfriend father? Like, at what point, or what are the pressures that exist in each one of these roles? And I think those are very important as we are out here, trying to be the best that we can be in each role. We're all facing different subtleties in raising kids. And I mean, I can speak to the stepfather, which is, different circumstances will create a step parent. And then what are the responsibilities after that, right? And so for me, the kids their parents are divorced. Their father is remarried. I am with a mother, and they came with her. So if I was going to date her at the beginning, then I was going to have something to do with the kids. And whether there's nobility in that, or selfishness in that, or just the willingness to interact with the children as a condition of dating the mother, I don't know. Everybody's intention's different. And then the willingness to step into the role, and the role that you play as the step parent, those are different, right? Every person that's dating the mother isn't necessarily wanting to be a step parent, and they're not necessarily engaging and interacting with the children in a way that would create that relationship. Just because you're in the role of a step parent doesn't necessarily mean that you're engaging with the children. Just because you decided to date the mother, a lady who incidentally has children, doesn't mean you automatically become a stepfather or a stepdad, right? In my situation, the parents were divorced. The father was remarried or in a different relationship. And then I met the kid's mother. I wanted to date her. She had children. They kind of came with it. And so therein lies the interaction. And so the genesis of the relationship sort of started with what she said to me was, "Hey, would you like to go to a baseball game with me and my kids on Saturday?" And I said, "Yeah." After I thought about it, "Yeah, that's fine. Just understand, if the kids are present, then I'm going to interact with them. If the kids are there, then I'm going to talk to them. And I don't want to see them as baggage or, frustration or a necessary evil in order to deal with this mother. I think that if you're going to present the children, then it's my responsibility." And this is how I thought. I'm responsible for my interaction with them. I'm responsible to include them because they're there, to include them and think about them and foster a situation where they felt welcomed, And so if that meant like we can't do certain things between me and the mother, then those are things that we can't do. I got to find family-friendly activities to do when we have the children with us, or when it's, daytime or any time that they're available. And I think that it seems as though, well, they have a father. The father's in their life. He has partial custody, so they go there, once a week and every other weekend. And now that we live far, they go sort of for the holiday, if that. He doesn't really come up here to participate with them outside of what the court has ordered him to do. So his involvement and his investment has waned a lot. He's not a primary parent. But before that, at the very beginning, we lived in the same basic geographical area. So the idea is, well, they have a father, so I don't necessarily have a place. Well, I took it upon myself when they were with me. Eventually, she moved in with me, and so she brought the kids, and so now we're all in one house, right? Most of the week, everybody was in one home, and so therefore, what do you have in the second grade? homework, school issues, friends that you want to play with, and there's monitoring that goes along with that. Eventually, our work schedules were sort of off from each other, so I'm there with the kids by myself, right? And so that is the genesis of a relationship that I had with the kids. And what I took from it was I'm responsible. I'm in a paternal situation, and so I should act accordingly. And that's what I did. Now, the relationship that developed between me and both kids seemed close. They seemed to respect me. They seemed to like me. They seemed to interact with me, all of those things. And so a lot of people thought, well, in comparison to their father, you're their dad. You're the person that does the things that are necessary. You're the person that cheers them on, that grounds them, that disciplines them, that does the things that a father would do. Right. And I always had to respond with, yeah, but that's not true. The truth is I'm not their father. Right. And it sounds insulting, like I don't want the role. But my point was always I had to live in the reality of, yeah, but I'm not. And so when it's time for them to choose which school to go to, I'm not in that conversation, not legally. I can act as a counsel and say, hey, this is a good option, or this is a good idea, or yes, I can help you get them back and forth to this school, but I'm not responsible for that. When it's time to determine what health insurance is going to go for the kids, that's not my decision. When it comes to, well, who's going to pay this private school tuition, I'm not the person that people look toward to see those things. I don't have access to all of the decisions that I would necessarily have if they were my biological children. I didn't have the rights and privileges to that. Therefore, everything gets altered a little bit as the step parent, right? I'm not able to do things that I would do with biological kids, right? Can I ground them the way I want to? Can I talk to them the way I want to? Can I, right? I don't really kiss on my stepdaughter. That's out, because there's always that idea of, well, it was the stepfather. He did it. He touched the girl. He X, Y, and Z. And so in defending myself, there has to be boundaries there versus what you would do with your biological daughter, right? Like I'm not one of those touchy-feely guys. That's just not how I roll that way. Whether I would like to be or not, it's not appropriate for me. And I think when my lady first came on the scene, she said the same thing. She didn't know me. She didn't know if I was a degenerate or an undercover alcoholic or a toucher or all these things. She had to get to know me. So she had to be, hyper vigilant and on guard and pay attention to how I interacted with the kids. Was I abusive? Did I talk to them in an unruly fashion? All of those things she had to monitor. I also had to monitor, well, how am I talking to the kids? Am I setting a good example? Am I being consistent? Am I doing all of these things, to sort of maintain my position? Now, I say that to say the difficulty with the pressure of a stepdad, right? There's more pressure than people understand. You think, well, there's less, you don't have to do as much. There's the main parent, and then there's the father who's sort of a secondary. He can follow up, and then I'm third in line to support and do everything else. But that position is dependent on everybody else involved, right? How I conduct myself daily will manufacture a situation where I can participate, right? If my lady decides, well, you're no longer welcome in my home for whatever reason, then I'm no longer welcome. If she says, hey, you're no longer welcome to participate with my children, then no matter what I've done, good or bad, I'm no longer welcome. And I don't have a legal recourse. I can't take her to court and say, well, but I like the kids. I can't do that. And so there's this level of pressure to fill in and fit in a way that makes sense, in a way that's productive, in a way that's satisfactory to everybody involved, and always living on that edge, living on the idea that, if she decides, then I'm out. If the kids decide, then I'm out. And when they grow up, they don't owe me anything. They don't owe me to come back and check on me. They don't owe me to be friends. I was their mom's friend. And if we had a great relationship, that's wonderful. But the basis is, and I have to understand that all the time, I'm not your father on that level, right? And so everything that I do has to be earned. My relationship with the kids has to be earned. It's not just given, right? And I will do the thing that I'm supposed to do. I do the right stuff, with the integrity and with the idea that it's entirely possible I don't get anything out of it. If the kid goes to Major League Baseball and makes $100 million, it is entirely possible that he goes, I never liked that guy, and I'm not giving him anything. And I have to be okay with that. And so therefore, the investment in the children has to be a blind investment. It has to be, I'm investing in you because that is the right thing to do, with no promise and no idea and no look to the return that it might be from me. And there's a level of pressure there that you're doing all this work, and at any point I can be removed from the situation, and at any point they can remove themselves from the situation. At any point they can leave, not listen to anything that I've ever said, and never come back. And that's a hard position to be in, to invest blindly into some people who I don't owe that to. Right? Like, I don't have to buy cleats. I don't have to buy baseball and softball gear. I don't have to buy. You have two parents for that. Grandparents, aunts and uncles. I don't have to do those things, but I do because I participate, because that's the role that I stepped into. Now, whether the kids understand that or they understand all the dynamics or not, that's kind of irrelevant. They're going to like me and they're going to interact with me the way that they see fit, the way that they see the most natural for themselves. But I don't get to dictate that. I don't get to tell them, well, this is how you're going to interact with me. And I think that the pressure of being, ejected from a life is substantial, and it's real. There's always this sort of undertone that it's got to be right. If I get into an argument with my lady and she decides, well, this relationship can no longer move forward, historically, that's the end. And there's nothing I can do to that. I show up, to the public park and make it a problem. If she decides this is it and she's the protector, she's the guardian, she's the parent, I don't really have recourse for that. And I think, like, at this point, my stepdaughter, she's 14. So the relationship that I have with my lady is independent of the relationship that I have with the children. But it took how many years to get to that point? And even still, yeah, she has her own cell phone, at 14. Yes, she has email. And yes, she plays sports in public places that I could show up to. What's the cost of me doing that when the mother says, this isn't for you? And I think those things are very, very, very important to understand. At least let's live in the reality of the scenario where I understand that this is the pressure and this is the life and this is what I've signed up for. And so as I live in that reality, it's fine. It's okay. I can navigate it and I can do the things that I can pick and choose and sort of I can live my life accordingly and according to how I would like it to be, perceived and lived. But acting like as though, my role in the children's life is exactly equal to their biological mother and their biological father. No matter how much I like or respect him, my role is not equal to his. His is mandated by law. It's mandated by biology. Mine is mandated by effort. And so as a stepfather, understanding that that's the only way into the world is through effort, that allows me to gauge how much effort I'm putting into and move forward that way. Imagine, as I have, right? So I met the kids at 5 and 7, and now they're 12 and 14. So a couple more years, we have high school to go, and then it's essentially the child rearing part is over. And imagine all of that effort, all of the money, all of the time, all of the education, all of the lessons, all of the wherewithal, right? All of the steadfast effort that I put into both kids, and wondering then if when the father shows up, am I replaced automatically just because of that role, right? And that's a hard place to be, to then just blindly go and put in everything that you can and then think that you'll be trumped potentially by the biological father who's put in a fraction of what I put into the kid's life. The trust then becomes that the children are mature enough when that happens, when it's the time for high school graduation and college graduation and weddings, that they understand the difference between all of the parents. And that's who wants to get left out, who wants to put in a bunch of effort and then get, you're choosing this other person as the paternal role. Although it's their choice, and I can respect that, and although they're it's more than fair that they choose their father over me at any juncture, it still hurts. And as humans, right, we're trying to avoid pain. None of us want to be hurt. So carrying that around, that fear, it's like a backpack that's full of rocks. We're just carrying it around, moving forward, right? And all of our situations are different. But this is something I think this is a consistent, thought that's common to any step parent, especially when the biological parent is present. And we all, hopefully as adults, we all think that we're making the good decisions and doing the best things for the children. And then you have the other parent that thinks the exact same thing, but we're doing opposite things, right? Who's right and who's wrong? I don't know the answer to that, but there's an inherent pressure that exists in that step parent position. So anyway, ultimately, fight the good fight, do the things that you're supposed to do, be where you're supposed to be, and give the kid as much love as you can, and whatever you get from that is what you get from that. And if you're looking for a return, then you're doing it wrong anyway. So just out there, it's easy to discuss and come to terms with once we understand and once we know, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, and this is maybe some issues are stemming from that. And it's okay because all of us are struggling with the same things. So as always, they'll change you if you let them. Like, follow, subscribe. Have a good day.
Remember the crew, whatever you do, I keep it close. Remember the clues, so when you're lost, you know what to do. Return to the spot and drop it from view. When it was Rich Due, I wasn't a cop, he wasn't a fool, he wasn't a flop, but he was my dude and he was my dog. That was my true, we making it rock. You hearing it hot? 90 bars and maybe some talk, you never know.